And then we'll get on to the main business. We'll get on to our positive perspective on the corona situation. And we're starting with Gareth. And Gareth is, in theory, he is a commercial lawyer and specialising in IP, and he's CEO of a firm, IP Assist. But he's passionate about a lot of things, not least he also does some photography and video production on the side. And one of the things he's been very passionate about during this time is finding ways to have a growth mindset. And I'm going to be quiet because there's a leaf blower outside, and let Gareth take over.
Thanks so much, Shari, and it is great to be here presenting with Amy today on 15 positive thoughts that we can have in business during these challenging times. So as Shari said, I mean, I'm a commercial and intellectual property lawyer and have also been working in the gig economy, the digital economy, for the last 10 years. It was actually our last crisis, the GFC, in which pushed me over the fiscal cliff into forging my own way in business about 10 years ago. So this is not new for me in a sense, because any entrepreneur or small business owner is probably pretty familiar with the metaphor that to jump out of a plane and to build your plane on the way down is pretty much how a small business can run and operate. So one of the first reactions that I had when we all went collectively through this togetherness of COVID-19 was really cultivating a growth mindset. And that has been really something that I've spoken on lately. And today I would like to share with you my 15 positive thoughts in 15 minutes of how you can actually leverage this time for your own greater benefit by leveraging the power of your own ideas. I'm going to take you through them from the top 15 to number 1 right now. So let's just make sure my screen's working okay. I'm going to just share screen with you in one moment. And then, ooh, here we go. Please tell me if this is coming up loud and clear. Yes?
Yep, that's there.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much for Referral Hub today and Shari for this opportunity. Basically, where we'd like to begin with is time. Never before have we had so much time to actually consider the opportunities that are in front of us. How we use our time is pivotal in this changing time. Because at the end of the day and at the start of it, our time can be used wisely if we use it. There are just advantages automatically that we have. We have more time because we're not traveling to work every day. We don't have to, fight our way to work through peak hour traffic. We have more time. And so therefore, that is one of the greatest resources. I was recently watching a documentary on Netflix, which is inside the mind of Bill Gates, a man who's achieved a lot in his time. The one thing that he doesn't have is time. And therefore that spurs him on every day to now moving into philanthropy after, creating $1 billion business. He now has time to focus on these pursuits. So all I'm suggesting at this time is that we can use our time wisely. That's number 1. We also have much more space. Who has noticed that the streets are calm, the streets are empty? We have the availability of time and space about us to actually consider our environment. We can look out of the window right now and see that the skies are blue. And indeed, we have time and space in the mornings to also listen to the birds. These simple acts of mindfulness are what can set a trajectory for our time throughout the day to actually create a positive circle of growth for us all. Space is now an abundant resource for us. We no longer have to fight our way on trams. We no longer have to find our way to work. We have space. And so we should also use this as a resource wisely. And this comes to my third point, focus. All of our lives are about what we focus on. We can either focus on the dark clouds that we are immersing us, metaphorically speaking, or we can choose to see the horizon. And it is on the horizon that we will see there is a great and abundant opportunity for growth. Some of the most successful people in business always suggest focus is really what determines a successful person, because quite simply it's what they focus on every day that dictates their success. None of us all of us start the race equally. However, it is what we choose to focus our time and space on that can actually help cultivate a growth mindset and put us and our first foot forward every morning as we move towards a new, uncertain, but also incredibly exciting time to be in business. And that's what really today is about. It's about growth. We can either see these opportunities, the environment that we're working in, as a chasm, or we can see it as a great opportunity to get ahead, to actually climb the ladder. Many of you would be familiar with the fixed and the growth mindset. Cultivating a growth mindset is basically about seeing challenges as opportunities, and fixing yourself to know that it is going to be a journey, but one of growth, and one in which you see growth and new opportunities to be found. Those with a fixed mindset limit their thinking, see challenges and obstacles, and will find excuses for not bridging the incredible opportunity that these times can bring to us all, acknowledging that we are all going through it. However, a growth mindset in these times will actually see the opportunity for you and your small to medium business to get ahead, because 80% have been paralyzed. And I might add, having an abundant mindset is also being acutely aware of the tools that we now have available to us. If this was 1918 and we were in the Spanish flu, we wouldn't have half the tools that are now available thanks to the World Wide Web. Quite simply, we are in a fourth industrial revolution where digital is the new normal, and we have an incredible abundance of resources that we can use. We can do our advertising through Canva. We can hire freelancers through freelancer.com. We can also spend this time to build our business in a new direction using the tools that are available for us. And they are all in the power of your own handset, staring back at you in your hand. And of course, there is importance of support, not just your four-legged friend, but also you can see the abundance of webinars and online support all available to you 24 hours a day. I have been amazed in the last week of the things that I've learned and the new ideas that I've seen communities across the world come up with. Whether it was a new platform that's been launched around live events from Boston through MIT, all through to more locally, the support groups such as the Referral Hub here, which can provide an instant way for us to connect to our peers, our colleagues, and forge ahead using the tools that are available to us. Never have we seen such togetherness alone through the power of digital. And I might add, there are free memberships everywhere. I can tell you 3 in the last week that I've managed to jump onto. The Victoria Chamber of Commerce is offering a $700 enterprise membership for free. And this, when we come good and we have live events again, or if they pivot in new directions, that will actually get you to 4 networking events, live networking events throughout a year, plus give you enterprise level support in terms of your employment relations updates and advice. And they're sending in great updates, including with the government reforms last week. The Victorian Chamber of Commerce is just one of many free memberships. I've also managed to get a free membership to the international, as being a lecturer of international students, the International Education Agents Association, and also I might add LinkedIn Premium, a great resource for online networking. LinkedIn is now offering premium memberships for free. This is a great opportunity to get onto Sales Navigator and actually start thinking about your changing client base and to use these tools that are available to you. And if you're unfamiliar with it, then this is a great time to learn. In fact, lynda.com, which is part of LinkedIn, offers amazing resources in terms of education where you can actually upskill on personal branding. A great time to also build your personal brand. Look out for free memberships because they are everywhere, and you will find that along with the government stimulus and support, which is in its billions of dollars, there are free memberships available for you to assist you and your business. Finally, here we are at number 8. Number 8, we're using the tools available in the space and time. We are empowered with one important activity right now, and that is the power of choice. For many people before this COVID-19, if you were unhappy with your career, now is your time to change. If you are unhappy with the direction of your business, now is your time to change. If you want to reinvent yourself, guess what? Now is your chance to change. While disruption might cloud us and our perspectives from time to time, there's no better time to disrupt yourself and actually take yourself on a journey of growth into a direction that is more congruent than your identity. Do not waste this time. Winston Churchill once said, "I would never let a good opportunity of a crisis go to waste." And this is precisely how we should use our time, because this is a great opportunity to change. And number 9, something I'm quite passionate about because it certainly liberated me in my career. This is a great time to go digital. If you haven't considered, just hearing some of the people on the call today, whether it was Peter or Ray, Peter, who's offering CFO virtual advice, Ray, who's looking at mortgage broking and to take that online. These are all good indications of where we can be spending our time. If you don't or have a method of digital delivery, now is a great time to actually create that. There is actually funding available through the Victorian State Government to help and assist you digitize your business. I'm more than happy to talk to people about this because this is funding that is available to you and your business to help you grow an online arm. And so therefore, this next, say, 3 to 6 months can be a great opportunity for you to experiment with delivery and online delivery, much like we're doing here today. I'm also a keynote speaker, but I have been pivoting in the last few weeks to online presentation and delivery because that's going to be our new normal. And therefore, it just makes sense that I just become more au fait with Zoom, more au fait with presentation techniques to take my business online. Already we have offered free calendar links, on other presentations and offered free virtual consultations. This is a great direction that any consultancy business can go. And of course, that leads to something I'm quite passionate about in my business, being an intellectual property lawyer. And I love talking to people about their ideas, particularly when their ideas are congruent with their identity, because this is a great time to innovate from that point. It is during these periods of time that great ideas have forged their way forward. We know that Spotify came out of the last GFC. And I was reminded yesterday by a great story about Thomas Edison, who was a Cambridge University student sent home in the time of the plague. He used it to develop a number of different theories which have now affected history over hundreds of years. Not least, it was in his study that he saw the apple fall from the tree and came up with the theory of gravity. This is a great time to innovate because we have space to time to think, space to create, and space to actually come up with new ideas that can forge our way forward beyond this small gap in our country's very long timeline. Also, and nearing to an end, we are at number 11. This is a great time to lead and not be led by external forces. This is a great time to reach out to your industry and actually show yourself and offer support, offer guidance to others in your industry. The reason being is that they will remember you. And if it is truly part of who you are, then it will actually amplify your business as well. Leading means making service, making a contribution, and you'll be surprised to see the effect that will have for you as a small business owner and otherwise. There are industry associations all scrambling to give meaningful advice to their constituents. This is a great time for you to actually reach out to those associations and offer your help. And one of the simplest ways you can is to give advice. Advice is only a measure of your time, and it is actually the best way to develop strong relationships during this period of time. And we can lead from the front by leading ourselves and not being led by the negative narratives that are prevalent within the media. And that probably also brings me now to number 12, move. If in doubt, just move. It's a great time to do spring cleaning in autumn, and you will be surprised if you change your space around and how that can really assist you, change your mindset. And there are so many other ways you can move without going to the gym. Parks, gardens are all available and accessible to us, and it's a great way for us to actually gain new perspectives by moving, because once we're moving, then your business can move as well. And you might just have that chance connection that you might make in a web chat room or a Zoom call that could lead to a business opportunity. So if in any doubt, move, because that will lead to this next and very important final point. This is an incredible time to create. It is a time to let your imagination around your business and life fuel the fire towards your next opportunity. This is a time of creation. It is a great time to actually sit, reflect, and make. And if you are a maker, then create things, because you'll be surprised to see how they can be shared, and they can be shared to inspire others as well. And finally, and number 15 of 15 positives in 15 minutes leads me to magic. Those that don't believe in magic will miss the opportunities. This is a great time to look at the power and effect that magic can have in our lives. Magic is everywhere. It is observing the changes that are happening to us all now, and it is indeed a great opportunity to change your perspective. So that brings me to a close, and that's it. Basically, I am an intellectual property owner. I believe in the power of ideas, and if you'd like to reach out, we are offering 60-minute free consultations for people who would like to understand the power of their ideas. And I thank you very much. Would now like to hand over to Amy, who will present further on how to inspire your team for great success during these changing times. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gareth. I just want to quickly wrap up. Gareth, we'll do questions at the very
sorry. Yeah, we'll do questions.
We'll do questions at the very end, just because I'm conscious of time, and if people want to stay on, they can stay on for questions. But I've just saw Bobby's comment, great presentation, so thanks, Bobby. And likewise from Robert. I'm not sure if people know how to use, you should have a participants button down the bottom, and it will give you little buttons of yes, no. You can say go slower or go faster. But if you do have that there, I'm just curious, some of the things that Gareth brought up really resonated with me, things about innovating and creating. I know that I've been creating, I've been doing video content and all sorts of things. But if you find you've been innovating or creating, I'd love just if you want to hit the yes icon, just to give us a feel for how people, what they're doing during this time. And as you guys do that, I'm going to hand over to Amy. So Amy is a HR consultant, but I always feel that sells her short for what she does, because Gareth's final point was about magic, and I think that what Amy does is create magic in businesses by harnessing the power of teams and leadership. And she's got a great perspective on how you can take that growth mindset and look for opportunities. So I'll hand over to you, Amy.
Gary, I always love getting introduced by you. Makes me feel very special. And thanks, Gareth, as well, for your awesome presentation. I think we obviously broadly knew what each other we're going to cover, but I think there's some really nice synergies and some things I want to pick up from your positives you've mentioned. So thank you. And quickly, thank you to Referral Hubs for having this event. And congratulations to everyone here for taking the time and making the time to actually think on this flip side of the whole debacle of COVID-19 and what it's presented to some of our businesses. And I suppose I would also like to add, and I'm sure Gareth will join me in this, that we understand it's not all celebration and parties for a lot of businesses at the moment. However, by the same token, we want to help businesses acknowledge that the current circumstances, what they are, and try and reframe it so that you can learn from what's working now, what's not working now, taking some of these positive approaches, what's getting shelved and you're not missing, for example, and what can you do now by utilizing your teams and engaging them effectively so that you can do that in the best way possible to survive this and to potentially improve and come out so much better on the classic term, the other side, or when we come out of this, because we will come out of this. It's just the matter of how long it will be. So I'd like to focus on giving you guys a couple of tools. Again, one of Gareth's positivities, our tools are so much better now than they were back when we had the Spanish flu. But these are actually not technological tools that I want to talk about. They're just typical robust management tools, I suppose, that whether you're an individual in a team or for those of you that are actually leading teams and businesses now, that you can think about. So I'm going to jump in and out of a couple of slides just so it's nice and clear. So bear with me as I attempt to share this screen. Right. Can everyone see my screen now? Can I see a thumbs up from someone? Yep, cool. So one of the first things is around setting goals and communicating expectations. So nothing groundbreaking here, but regardless of where your business is at in terms of how it's responding to COVID-19 challenges at the moment, people still want to be on a team that is going somewhere. And that they need to know that what they're doing actually makes a contribution. So being able to define that and articulate it and what your plans are for achieving those objectives is really, really important. Even if people knew what the organisational objectives were beforehand, revisit, have they changed? And in which case you need to re-communicate that. Because now more than ever, we've got these remote or distributed teams in whatever capacity. We don't have that opportunity to consistently reinforce what that message is. So we need to really keep that front of mind. And I think it's been said, there's no such thing as over communicating in the current times that we have at the moment. And when you're thinking about setting these goals and communicating these plans, think about it in terms of, I'm just trying to flick to my next slide. There we go. 3 different levels. So what are the organization's objectives and what are your plans for achieving them and communicating those to your team? What are your team's objectives and have they changed? And if so, how are you going to communicate that and what has changed? And the bit that I really want to focus on today is the individual objectives. So that 3rd level, because now your team aren't sitting next to you. You can't hear them having conversations with each other, in the office. You don't really know how they're chipping away at their goals. You're probably wondering, how are they doing? What are they doing? What are they working on? Are they working on the right things? And so you should be wondering these things if you're a manager of people. And likewise, if you're an individual, you obviously want to know that you're working on the right things as well. Managers have a responsibility to deliver outcomes through their teams, and now more than ever we realize we're all operating quite leanly. Scaling down is happening. Every team is needing to demonstrate what it is contributing and the contribution it's making. So every resource now more than ever needs to be delivering and demonstrating that. So in order for you for our managers to actually be on top of that, not be a micromanager and checking in with people on an hourly or daily basis necessarily, I wanted to give you guys a way of looking at revisiting your job descriptions. So hopefully individuals have job descriptions and they're typically defined in what we see as key result areas and measures. So what is the output and how are we going to know when success is achieved? or you might have quarterly goals for your teams. You might have monthly goals, OKRs. There's all sorts of different terms that get used at the moment. So firstly, revisit them and work out, are they still valid? Do they need to be redefined? And that might be in weekly, monthly targets now, because we are in a rapidly changing environment. But secondly, redesigning them or rewording them, I suppose. I'm just going to jump back to screen now to start to think about outputs and inputs. So then when we think about our outputs, let's go right to the end. What is the outcome that we need somebody to achieve in the next week, in the next month, in terms of this goal? But a secondary thing to start to think about, so that you have some milestones and some ways of which the employee can report back to you and that you can measure their success without being, frustratingly annoying, is to define some input measures. So let's take a personal goal as an example. Let's say somebody wants to lose weight. They want to lose 10 kilos in the next 3 months. So that's our output goal, 10 kilos difference on the scales. Our input goals, however, I want to, you need to do 30 minutes exercise per week, consume X amount of calories per month, or 30 minutes exercise per day, I should say, X amount of calories per week. And then you might have some other targets there. So defining those inputs as well, so you can have some clear measures of success of whether or not you're moving towards achieving that output. Let the individual work out, for example, what time they're going to go for their walk, what exactly they're going to eat to consume their calories, that whole processes side of things. But look at defining your goals and objectives in terms of those two different elements. So output goals and input goals will help make it nice and clear for communicating it to the individual. So I think the key tip, I suppose, there is to revisit company and team objectives and work out whether or not they're still valid, and if they need to be defined and recommunicated, then do that. Revisit your job descriptions or whatever goals and objectives that currently exist for individuals, and look at defining them in terms of inputs and outputs, and get your team members to help. So I always say with job descriptions, they don't need to be done just by the manager and given to the employee, or vice versa. Both parties need to be involved, but a team member can certainly do the first draft for you. And you obviously need to be in agreement to make sure they're going to get delivered as well. If you don't have that buy-in, then obviously we will have little success. And just lastly on this topic, James Clear is one of my favorite thought leaders on this stuff. I just finished his book called Atomic Habits. And I do think now is the time for creating new habits. Gareth talked about innovating and growth mindsets and various other things that we might change. We can create new habits during this process. And James Clear actually says that the strategy for achieving your goals, or in other words, these input objectives, are almost more important than the goals in themselves, because we need to actually know how we're going to go about achieving it. So just something to think about there. So on the next topic that I wanted to cover, and there's just a couple for today, I'll stop sharing for a moment, is one of my favorites, and it links really well with this stuff, and that is team roles. So starting to think about this, it's the old adage that we treat everybody as we would like to be treated, which we've probably all heard before. But when it comes to leadership, that's not necessarily the case if that means you're going to treat everybody the same, because not everybody is the same. We're all different, and effective teams need a mix of different people to actually be effective and be a balanced team. There's a lot of research that supports that. So I want to challenge everybody to think about each of the team roles that exist within the team you're operating in, or the team that you're leading. What are individuals' preferences, their work styles, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how can you as leaders understand these and leverage off each other's strengths and cover each other's weaknesses? And by understanding those team roles, we can work out what goals and objectives to allocate to certain individuals based on their strengths. And you can also work out the most appropriate way to communicate with each of those individuals. So there's some different models that we can use to explain effective teams and how important team roles are. And one way of looking at them is thinking of this combination of a balance of action-oriented doers and ideas-producing thinkers and people-centered carers. So doers, thinkers, and carers. And the research shows that effective teams need a balance of all of these roles. So I'll give you an example. If one team is full of all these doers who are all head down and focused on ploughing forward without actually assessing whether or not it's the right path forward, it can really impact on the team's effectiveness. You know, are they actually working on the right things? Let's take another scenario where you might have a team that's got that's missing thinkers. So then you risk that the right ideas aren't getting put into action because you don't have people coming up with new ideas or innovative ways of doing things. Again, another positive approach that Gareth talked about. This is the time for innovation. So are we using our thinkers for that? And then what if another team, as another scenario, has too many carers? So we've all worked with these people who love the social aspect of work, be it in the office or now, you know, facilitating Zoom meetings and calling left, right and center everybody, because they're really focused on those relationships, but they're not actually getting any work done. So not having that balance can present real challenges to teams. And effective leaders, or the ones that I've seen do this best, know when to draw on the different roles so that they can get the best from them, which is even more essential now, so that we're utilizing all of our resources in the best way possible and keeping them engaged and motivated. So that goes for both of these topics. People need to know what they're responsible for in those goals and objectives to have some level of satisfaction and commitment and, you know, reporting in at the end of the day on what they're working on. And likewise, we need to work to our strengths. We need to be allocated work to our strengths so that we're able to exercise those and get some satisfaction from the work that we're doing as well. So there's some practical steps that managers can take and even individuals to make sure that each of those team roles are being used to their best effect. So think about, do the doers actually know what needs to be done, and do they have the resources to be able to get on and do it? Are the thinkers being challenged to come up with innovative ideas and plans for your team or your business? And are you using those carers to take care of all of those relationships, particularly during this time, which is even more acute? So some examples might be, you know, this time for innovation. We've got businesses that are struggling with, you know, product lines and blockages in supply chain stuff. Are you using your thinkers to actually dedicate some time? Now they're at home, they've got the space to actually think about some new ideas. They may not all be great ideas, but thinkers just need to have that brainstorming opportunity and to be heard and to have those discussions with people and to present them. Doers, some doers are perfectionists. So they may always have been whinging about processes and various other things like that. Use them to actually take some time to develop some new processes or standard operating procedures or whatever the case is. Likewise with your carers, you as a manager don't need to be the one that's checking in on everybody all of the time. Utilize some of your carers to be making some of those calls and checking in on people for you and reporting back if they spot that anything's outside of the norm. So the other thing that I wanted to just leave you with, I suppose, is some tips on how to utilize this model of this doers, thinkers and carers. And I'd suggest that everyone considers developing a team roles grid. So just imagine a table on the left-hand side, you've got each of your team members, and then across the top, are they a doer, a thinker or a carer? There's no exact science to this particular model. There are some team role profiling models that get a bit closer to that. Belbin is one that Horizon uses, Belbin team roles, which is really powerful to be able to assess it in a quick survey and fairly cost effective as well. But you'll know from the descriptions I've given you around these action-oriented doers, ideas, producing thinkers, and your people-centered carers, which one are you and which one are each of your team members. And once you've identified that, start to develop an action plan as to how you're going to engage them the best way possible, how you're going to allocate some of the responsibilities for them that your team is tackling right now with the challenges of COVID and moving forward and planning for the end, so that you can make the most effective use of your people. And for those team members that are on this call as well, I challenge you to go, okay, what am I and what do I want to be putting my hand up for now in terms of the best work that's suited to me to keep me engaged and motivated while we get through this in our own little hubs at home. So I think they were sort of the key things that I wanted to cover. In terms of bringing it all together, it's just looking at setting those goals according to the team roles, utilizing the strengths and weaknesses of individuals. So that's what this whole team role theory covers, understanding those work styles, those preferences, leveraging off the strengths of people and covering each other's weaknesses. We don't have to necessarily work on the weaknesses. Let's just have a balanced team to affect that. And if you are looking at restaffing or you're building a team because you may be in a growth phase or you are downsizing, look at actually, you know, the best combination that's going to see you through. And some questions that I've been sort of discussing with clients because of some of their recent challenges that I thought I would leave you guys with in dealing and bringing all of this stuff together is thinking about that utilization of each of your team roles, but also acknowledging that means different things to different people right now. You know, we've got to make the most use of every resource, but we also have to acknowledge people are going through right now, working from home, their financial stresses, their partner may have work, they may have kids running around in the background. So that will mean different things to different people. And I think it's really important that managers are able to make some exceptions during this. Upskilling, looking at training and development, depending on budgets and cash flows of businesses is really powerful at the moment. But also it doesn't need to be spending money on training. It might be you've now got capacity to pair individuals. So you may slow down in productivity because you've got two people working on something, but we're actually able to knowledge share and actually upskill two people at once so that when we come out of this, we're better equipped to solve other problems. I mentioned using your innovators for revisiting product lines or new service offerings that your business might be needing to think about. And I think Gareth touched on some of the new ways we can think about our time, our space, the way in which we're doing things now. And that's what I wanted to challenge everybody with in terms of workflows and priorities and findings that you've got from this new working from home arrangement. There might be certain things that just out of necessity have not been getting done. And has anyone noticed? Is that a good thing? Have you made some admin sort of efficiencies that you need to hold on to? And how can you make sure that those things aren't lost and you don't slip back into old ways when things do return to whatever this new normal is? So I think they were sort of the key things, thinking about setting those goals and objectives and communicating those plans and making sure people know what's expected of them, how they're going to be measured, those output and input goals, and thinking about your doers, thinkers and carers and how you can best utilize them. It's often been said that during these times, leaders need to be really intentional and pull back and take time to have this broad, holistic view of both the challenges and the opportunities that are presented to them at the moment. And it requires taking a long view as opposed to just really managing in the present. So try and, as best you can, I know there's a lot of stresses that people are under at the moment, but try and think ahead as well. Because you need to hold on to these people, these skills that you have. You're going to need them in the long run, and people will remember how we treated them, our employees, our customers, and you need to acknowledge what motivates people and how to best play to their strengths so that they can deliver what the business needs during these critical times, but also for the future as well. So I suppose that's sort of the crux of what I wanted to cover. I know we're right on 1:30, so I might hand back over to Shari, and I can stick around if anyone's got any questions, and can also send out some information on the doers, thinkers and carers if anyone's interested, the team roles grid and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Amy. What I might ask, I know that we are on 1:30 as well, so if anyone's got any questions, if you want to send them to me in the chat, we'll get through them, and if we can't get through them before you have to go, I will make sure they get answered to you. But it's interesting, I think, from two perspectives. One, I think, is what both yourself and Gareth have alluded to, is this working from home arrangement we've got is redefining the workforce going forward. This isn't it may change, but it's not going anywhere at the moment. So this stuff's really important, but also listening to you, Amy, is that a lot of this applies to me as a solopreneur in my own business, and I don't have a team, but so much of it applies. And sometimes it's about, well, I don't have a team, but what's my community? Like I have various groups, referral hubs and other groups that I belong to. And how do I implement some of that again in those? I think has been really relevant for me.
Great.
So thank you for that. Did we have any questions? I haven't seen anything come through yet. Or any comments either. Comments also. I've got some good feedback. Okay, well, it sounds like we are finishing, unless anyone's going to quickly jump in. It sounds like we're finishing very much on 1:30. So thank you all for coming on board. I know it's a short week and everybody's busy despite all the extra time we have in our 10-second commute walking from one room to another these days. I know that time is a premium and you need to be using that well, as Gareth has told us. So I appreciate you being here. And I think, as Naram has said, stay safe and healthy, everyone, is a great message to finish on. And thank you to Gareth and Amy. And I look forward to seeing everyone at the next